Hey guys, welcome back to Her Side of the Ruck. My name is Bernice,
I'm Tash.
and we are not pundits.
We're just two women who know what a ruck is.
So, on this week's episode, we will be talking all things British and Irish Lions series. So, the Lions have concluded their series win against Australia and they walk away with a 2-1 win over the Wallabies. And although I think they'd be very happy with the win, it probably wasn't the outcome they'd hoped for. And they are yet to win a whitewash series since 1927. So looking back at the match this week, the third test, yeah, I think it was a very unexpected win for a lot of people. I think a lot of people didn't expect the Wallabies to actually take the win and walk away with the win from the series. And probably a lot of people would say that they were unlucky to not win the second test. And I think they would probably feel like what ifs. They would have a lot of what ifs after the series. But nonetheless, I think the Lions are well-deserved winners of the series. And yeah, such tough conditions that they had to play in, Tash. That was insane. I have not seen such crazy weather conditions in I don't know how long. So, what were your thoughts?
It was like monsoon season, wasn't it, in Sydney? I
Yeah.
don't think the TV ever does it justice or the camera because when you got a couple of close-ups, so when you're doing like production, you've got the wide
Mhm.
shot, which is it went back to the wide shot so many times because the
Mm.
rain was just so horrific and
Yeah.
it was disappointing that there were so many knock-ons, particularly from the
Mm.
Lions. And where the
Mm.
Lions have been so good was passing the ball through phases in that attack, going through the phases to then it's team tries with great individual finishes. We didn't really see that in Test Three from the Lions, largely because the style of attack that they are so good at wasn't possible because of the rain. Now you can't just blame it on the rain. You can't say, "Oh, we lost because of the rain." That is not true. The Wallabies played so much better. And okay, yeah, it's disappointing from a Northern Hemisphere and that they didn't do a whitewash, they didn't bagel Australia, but
Mhm.
Australia performed fantastically at the weekend.
Mhm.
They played the style of rugby that suited the conditions. Don't blame the conditions, blame the style of rugby that you're playing in the conditions. You can't change the weather, but you can change the style of play. So yeah, but
Mhm.
when you saw all the crowd in those plastic ponchos and I saw people's cups of beer kind of like sat in the cup holders, and I thought that's going to be water more than it is going to be beer. So yeah, horrific conditions, but what a way to end the tour. I don't think it's the way that the Lions would have wanted to end the tour,
Mm.
but for the Wallabies, it's a cracking way to end the tour, despite, I suppose, a timid start, but it really sets them up for the Rugby Championship.
Definitely. And I also think it was actually quite interesting to see that there were five tries scored overall.
Mm.
The Wallabies scored three tries, the Lions scored two tries, and you would think the attacking play wouldn't really be there in those conditions, but it didn't really seem to bother them too much and to
No.
have a crazy effect. Yes, you had a lot of handling errors, but that's kind of expected in those type of conditions. But overall, I also felt like the Wallabies handled the conditions pretty well. And yeah, just like from the start, it felt like the Aussies had a very tight grip on the match
Yes.
overall. And I thought they'd halftime when they called all the play or just in the second half just started and they called everyone off the field. And I thought, oh no, this might change the momentum for the Wallabies, and it didn't. And I was super happy for them that they could come out again and kind of just pick up where they left off. So I think that was great to see.
It's a credit to Joe Schmidt as a
Mm,
head coach. He is a quality head coach. And I think where Australia were at the start of this test series, they are
mm,
they are so far apart from where they were
mm,
when they played in Brisbane. The Lions, you can say a lot of what ifs about that Lions squad. Should Andy Farrell have rotated the squad out and put in the likes of Finn Smith or Marcus Smith and Henry Pollock just to bring in some of the younger blood into the team, Josh van der Fleer, or all of those players we haven't seen them really in the past few weeks. So should he have done that? There's no point of criticising and saying what ifs and what buts now. The tour's over. The British and Irish Lions won. They will still be happy. They're coming back with a trophy, which is amazing. I think this tour has been brilliant as well in terms of the engagement, both in Australia and just across the world, really. I feel like there's been great engagement in the Northern Hemisphere. And I've looked forward to sitting down and watching the Lions matches. And I can't remember what I was doing during the South Africa tour. And it was such a shame that you couldn't have fans, but we were in a different period of time then. And I'm glad that we're not in that place anymore. So to get 90,000 people at the MCG last weekend, to get people in Sydney in the torrential rain, like in the absolute torrential rain and in lightning, all having a jolly and enjoying themselves, it just goes to show that this Lions tour is a success, regardless of whether you're supporting the British and Irish and Lions or whether you're supporting Australia. I think we can end it on a high, particularly the Aussies will end it on a high. I don't want to criticise the British and Irish Lions because this has been a great tour. It wasn't the quality that I have expected. Like, I kind of walked away from that game feeling a little bit flat, being like, I don't think some of the key playmakers had some of their best games. I thought the line out was poor. However, that is a testament to the Wallabies and working out the tactics of the British and Irish Lions and what their set pieces are. I thought the scrum was better, but yeah, for me, you don't lose any line outs, or you lose like one line out throughout the entire tour, and then you lose, what is it, 5, 6, 7? It's just a crazy amount, and you can't blame that on the weather. It just got a bit too predictable. And with the weather, you're going to throw short. You're not going to risk going to the back, really. Whether the rain will tip the ball or whether you'll slip or something like that, you're better off going short. Well, why don't you go really short rather than lifting up? You're going to target Ollie Chesham in the air because he's great in the line out. But the Aussies read that a lot, so credit to the Wallabies. But yeah, there's some disappointing things from the Lions. At least they didn't come away from that game scoreless. And if you're an Aussie, you'll be really happy with that result.
Yeah, I think, like you said, that the scrums were okay. It wasn't great, but yeah, it is very tough conditions to play in, and I think we often underestimate like how bad it is. But yeah, definitely, like, you have to adapt to that style of play. And apparently it was raining throughout the week as well, so you kind of knew going into the match that it would have been like that. But I think before the match, looking at the team sheets, I feared for Australia. Like, I was like, oh no, like, because neither as a neutral or as an Aussie supporter, you want to see them get a hiding, especially in the third test. And, there's pride on the line. The rugby championships are coming up, and like, you don't really want to see that. And I know for the Lions, like, if you get a win or if you give them a hiding, like, either way, then it's a whitewash. But I was scared for the Aussie, like, on behalf of the Aussies, because I was just like, this team sheet is insane. And yeah, there was a few of the key players that didn't play as well as they did in the previous test, or they didn't play as expected. But yeah, I just think on that also, like, credit to the Wallabies because they played really well. And I think it was so good to see players like Lionel really growing into the fly-off role, especially with the rugby championships coming up. And I think you said it last week, Tash, but it's a testament to Joe Schmidt and just the confidence that he has in him, because he could have easily said, no, we have a more experienced fly half in Ben Donaldson, so why are we going to give Lionel a chance? So to me, it's great to see that how his confidence has been growing, and yeah, just going into the rugby championships, I think that's so good.
Oh, agreed. I think we've also got to give a word for the scrum halves in the Aussies. Nick White, supposedly his final game, but I'm sure some of the commentators said, well, I remember them saying on broadcast, like, maybe Smith will convince White to stay on. He was everywhere, annoyingly everywhere from my perspective, but his experience showed. in that game. He knew what he needed to do in the conditions. He brought that expertise to that game. But he was also the little guy starting a lot of fights, which was quite funny. I did say I made a video. I suppose when I look back at it, I'm not as joyful as I am now when I'm talking about the series. I was obviously disappointed that the Lions didn't front up in the way that I thought they would. I did think it was a bit tasteless the second time Nick White started on the British and Irish Lions when James Ryan got knocked out. And he obviously had to leave the field. And I speak for both of us here where we wish James Ryan a good, speedy recovery. Medical staff with the British and Irish Lions are some of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. So he is in safe hands, but we wish him a speedy recovery. But yeah, Nick White was providing the drama everywhere. And that big mustache, that cheeky smile, well, that will live in the memory of rugby history, I'm sure. But fantastic. And Tate McDermott, when he came on to replace White as well, was brilliant. For me, Tate McDermott has been a standout player for the Wallabies.
Yeah, he's been so good throughout the season. And I've been hoping that he would get a chance to start for the Wallabies. But yeah, regardless of that, I think he made the impact that he should have. And he was also, I think, one of the most consistent players for the Wallabies throughout the series. And then again, Swali, I can't wait to see more of him in the Rugby Championship. I think he's just outstanding on attack. And Jorgensen, also
so
just
good.
What a player, right?
Again, Jorgensen has been consistent across the 3 tests. And he's grown in confidence, and on the wing, he's there at the right time. His coverage is great. His speed is fantastic. So I'm excited to see how he performs with a Wallaby squad that is growing in confidence, quite frankly, going into the Rugby Championship. And I actually think the Rugby Championship this year is going to be one of the most exciting Rugby Championships we've seen in such a long time, because you've got South Africa, who are on top form. You've got Argentina, who will be looking to make a point after beating the British and Irish Lions in Dublin, but losing to England twice on home soil. You've got the All Blacks, who will be vying to beat South Africa and say, no, we won the World Cup a few years ago and we want it back again in 2 years' time. And then you've got Australia, who have started 3 weeks ago, not the squad that they are now. And they just seem to be climbing a mountain in strides, really. And this Rugby Championship is going to be so exciting. And almost for me as a neutral looking at the Rugby Championship, I suppose I'll take the loss from the British and Irish Lions in a positive way in this way, because it means that the Wallabies go into the Rugby Championship with so much confidence and makes that competition incredibly exciting from a Northern Hemisphere perspective. But yeah, you've got to give a clap to the Wallabies. They deserve to win. You could see how much it meant to them as well. And it should. Like, a Lions tour is a massive thing. And okay, they lost this time round, but that doesn't matter. There's 12 years time. That sounds like a very long way away. And I saw another rugby content creator on TikTok say, how old will you be when you next go around to when the Lions go to Australia? And I was like, I don't want to think that far ahead. Like, why have you put this thought into my brain? Yeah. But yeah, it's a great Lions tour, and Australia have got some standout performances and performers. I think as a squad, that cohesion is coming, and I'm looking forward to see where they build to.
Yeah, and I just think there's nothing that bonds a squad more like a tour like that, and especially touring against the British and Irish Lions. So I'm scared a little, but also very excited for this Rugby Championship, because I just think it's going to be, like you said, one of the most exciting Rugby Championships in a long time. A lot of the teams have a lot to prove. New Zealand haven't lost at Eden Park in such a long time, and then the Wallabies coming back with a crazy confidence boost, and then Argentina would also be looking to, I think they would probably want to win their first ever Rugby Championship somewhere along the line. So I think it's going to be very, very exciting times.
Absolutely. And we'll be talking a lot about the Rugby Championship as well as plenty of other international rugby in episodes to come. I suppose to circle back to the British and Irish Lions, let's talk about some of the winners and the losers from
Mm.
that squad, because I think in such a big squad, you know that not every player is going to play in those 3 tests. And I think Andy Farrell clearly had his team in mind a
Mm.
long time ago, depending on a couple of injuries. I mean, you don't have Caelan Doris was injured before that.
Mm.
He maybe would have been in contention for the
Yeah.
captaincy if he was fit. Again, all ifs, all buts. But let's talk about some of our winners and losers. My first winner is Tom Curry.
Yeah.
2 test tries, defense stats that are just off the charts. He grew really positively, and even in some of the earlier games where he maybe didn't perform to his best standard, I think he
Mm.
really grew in confidence, and he has cemented his place in Lions history. And there is, without a doubt, in terms when it comes back to international rugby with their countries, he is in the starting 15 for England.
Definitely. And I think so many people underestimate the Tom Curry or just thought, Jack Morgan should be the first choice and first option to start for the British and Irish Lions. And I think that kind of motivated Tom Curry even more to just say, well, I also deserve to be here and like I'm gonna give it my all. So, and yeah, he was just outstanding, especially in the second test. He was very, very good. He also made that tackle on Swali'i that prevented him from passing the ball. And um, not only that, he did so many other great things. But
Mm-hmm.
I think my winner of the season was probably Dan Sheehan.
Mm,
And Dan Sheehan is just such an outstanding hooker. And I mean, as a South
he is.
African, like you can, like, it's not always easy to say it, but he is just so good. And I don't think, like, it's been a long time since we've seen a hooker score so many non-maul tries
Yes.
and like just so many tries in general, but just like non-maul related. And he's a really good hooker. He's that all-round versatile, like good in like I feel like what makes a player so good is if he's firstly good at his first job, which he is, which is
Yes.
throwing line out balls, and then he does those extra things on the field, which is great to see.
Dan Sheehan was quality in every single match
Hmm.
that he played.
Yeah,
In my opinion, he is the best hooker in the Northern Hemisphere right now.
yeah,
He is just unmatched. Like, I agree with you when he says he is great at what his core role is as a hooker. But we saw him quite a long time, like several times, being on the wing and kind of like
yeah,
cutting back inside and scoring, or just being shy of the try line. And he does that all the time at club and for Ireland. And he's just absolutely quality. He has, again, cemented himself in British and Irish Lions history. Top class player, and he deserved to be in those test match squads, because he was just way, way above everybody else. And I know you found it difficult as a Souther complimenting him, but even as an English woman complimenting, like,
yeah,
I hate it when Dan Sheehan plays against England, because he is
yeah.
just so, and I know everyone's going to start talking about, oh, can't wait for the Six Nations when we all hate each other again, and that's the case, and all the banter comes back. But yeah, absolute quality player. Another one of the Irish guys, Ty Byrne, amazing. I think
Oh
he's
my
had such a
goodness.
good tournament. Just, and also just when he stepped up to be captain when Itoji's come off the pitch or for other reasons, just been absolute quality. And I think where he was in terms of line speed, rucks, all the kind of stuff that you need from a great second rower, just he was great. Ty Byrne is one of my winners from this tournament.
No, for sure. And I think he is very well deserved of that accolade and just his lineouts, breakdowns. And I think he was also one of the most consistent players throughout the season
I
for
agree.
the Lions throughout the series. Yeah, and it's just like so well deserved.
And one more final winner for me is Hugh Jones, because he
Hmm.
starts all 3 tests. And I know people were saying, oh, if Gary Ringrose wasn't, if he was fit
Mm.
in the second test, which, I mean, saying, coming back and saying he has concussion symptoms is very noble of
Mhm.
him. And it means he doesn't play for the rest, he doesn't get capped against
Mm.
Australia. But Hugh Jones, for me, is just a fantastic player. And I know when I've mentioned him in the past, I say I'm biased, but objectively, he is a fantastic centre. And he's a very smart guy. And I don't think people sometimes realise this about rugby players. Sometimes the best athletes, whatever sport they are incredibly intelligent people. And Hugh Jones is an incredibly intelligent man, both on and off the field. So, yeah, he's one of my winners personally. And no one is taking that 13 jersey off him at Scotland when he goes back into club representation, because he has consolidated his position as that 13.
No, I have to agree. And I think another standout backline player for me was Finn Russell.
Mm,
And I know he didn't have a great third test, but just overall, he's so talented. And
mm.
he shows his versatility, like he showed his versatility throughout the whole series, and just why he's so good, and why he got the number 10 jersey throughout the series. He was just very good.
Absolutely. All cracking players. I mean, we can list plenty more names who we think are winners. I
Yeah,
mean, Hugo Keenan is an obvious one with that
yeah,
test winning try. But again,
yeah.
as we said last week, set up by some fantastic phases from the Lions.
Mhm.
I guess we've got a couple of losers from the tour as well. And I mean this in the most positive way. And by losers, we say
Mhm.
the players that got selected that either the media or many Lions fans or other rugby fans thought that they would be in that starting 23 in at least one of the tests against Australia. I'm going to start with a back rower, Josh van der Fleer. But when you look at the quality of the back rowers that Andy Farrell selects in his wider squad, he's got a wealth of choice. And Farrell had that belief in Tom Curry, and Tom Curry proved him right and showed and that he was thankful and that he deserved his place. And Jack Morgan was an ample replacement coming off the bench. If anything, the right replacement. So it's a shame that we didn't see Josh van der Fleer play, because I think what he can do in the back row, what we've seen him do at club and country, is awesome. But when you're spoilt for choice, what do? Do you circle people in, circle out, or do you keep the guys that you think could perform the best? And Andy Farrell went with the latter.
Yeah, and it's so difficult because, like you say, the depth in the back row of the British and Irish Lions were insane. And now, like, yes, you can argue Josh van der Fleer had to have, like, he should have gotten more chance in the British and Irish Lions jersey, but Tom Curry proved everyone wrong. So, I mean, I don't think Josh van der Fleer would have been a downgrade, or he would have done a worse job than Tom Curry. So I think equally he could have selected Josh van der Fleer just as easily, because he's such a hard worker. He's not the flashy guy on the field,
Mm.
and he's the quiet, silent guy that does his job, and somehow he ends up with how many carries or how many tackles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, you just always see his red scrum cap everywhere. But but yeah, I think he's definitely one of the players that you can consider a loser, if we can call it that way.
Yeah, I also think another player who I suppose is a media darling, particularly in the English
Mm,
media, is Marcus Smith.
mhm,
Uh,
mm,
Look, you can't. Smith is a fly half. He's not a fullback. He can play fullback, but in the way that Blair Kinghorn has had, I suppose, as a
mm,
utility back, can play fly half, but he's more of a fullback or a winger. Blair Kinghorn is better at doing that and more versatile than Marcus Smith, in my opinion. And I do think Smith, I know he plays for Quins and I'm a Tigers fan, but it's still, he's still a quality player. Smith
mm,
brings a lot of flair, pizzazz. He's fun to watch. He's always got that bouncing energy. And I don't know if that didn't fit the Farrell outset.
mm,
You've mentioned Finn Russell. Finn Russell has his own pizzazz in a different way.
mm,
In the way that I think Marcus Smith is bouncy and lively, Finn Russell is just like, I can slot that. Yeah, I want to kick it in the corner.
mm,
He's more of the calm and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it well kind of guy, but also doesn't take himself too seriously. And I think a lot of people have embraced that more than they did in the past, when people were criticizing Finn Russell for saying, you're not taking it seriously enough. It doesn't mean anything to you. Well, it does.
Mm.
It clearly does. And Finn Russell has spoken in the media about that. But I don't know if Marcus Smith should feel hard done by, because for me, he was the third 10 in terms of where you look at what Finn Smith has achieved and how I suppose he's become more of the favourite pick at fly half in England. And Finn Russell is just so good. Like, he showed how quality he has been in this tour. I'm not saying Marcus should go back to the drawing board. No way. He needs to stick with his authenticity, and he is great at that pizzazz. And quite frankly, I like watching him play. Maybe not in a club jersey, but no, I'm kidding. In an England jersey, he's exciting and he brings that energy on. And he seems like a great guy who has had a lot of media attention thrown on him. Is that part of it? I don't know. It's very subjective. I suppose another English player who's had a lot of media attention thrown on him, you're smiling because you know who I'm going to say, is Henry Pollock. He has been great in the content that the British and Irish Lions have come out with. Like, top quality, so funny. And I guess when he's played, he has played really quite well. But is he going to start over Jack Morgan or Tom Curry and then Josh van der Fleer? I'd say no. So is he a loser? I don't think so, because he got to carry Bill around. He's been in all of the media. Everyone knows his name. Everybody knows his name. And he's only going to get better because he's got the type of character that's like, I'm going to boss it and I'm going to be the man in rugby and everyone's going to know who I am. And I don't think that's a bad thing. We need a character like that. So the fact that he didn't get capped in terms of playing Australia, I don't think he's lost, but maybe other people will feel like he lost out in terms of game time in this tour.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe lost in terms of game time, but I think for him and being such a young player and being able to experience the whole British and Irish Lions squad and just what it's all about, I think that on its own is a big win. And I think maybe not if you say that to Henry Pollock, maybe he won't feel the same, and maybe you'd be like, no, but he wants to play. And you could tell in the games that he did play, he was very hungry for his chance, and he grabbed the opportunity with both hands. But I think again it comes down to the preference of coaches and what they kind of prefer in a back rower or a fly half, because coaches prefer different styles of play. And
absolutely,
a previous coach might prefer Henry Pollock over everyone else, whereas another coach will not even consider him, or he'll be the third choice, whereas they'll go, nope, I want someone like Jack Morgan, or nope, I want Tom Curry, which happened with Andy Farrell. And I mean, ultimately it paid off for Andy Farrell. It wasn't like you could say, oh my goodness, like Henry Pollock would have made such a big difference, because ultimately I do believe that you need to select the best player in their position. And I'm not saying Henry Pollock is not the best or he's not good, but I think ultimately that's what it comes down to for the coaches.
I think as well, you knew that Australia were going to build in terms of their attack going through this series. And Tom Curry and Jack Morgan, in my opinion, are the better defenders in the back row. As when you watch Josh van der Fleer and Henry Pollock play, they're the carriers. They're the back row carriers. And I think the way that Andy Farrell picked his squad, you've got on the bench, Genji, he is the explosive firepower who can defend really well, but he's the baby rhino that wants to carry and get further towards that try line. And people were saying it was interesting when he was changed out and you've got different people on the bench, you've got these different rotations, but Andy Farrell didn't put two explosive players on the bench. He swapped out one great defender, someone who's really steady down the breakdown, in the rucks, in the scrum, in the line out, and then with an explosive player like Ellis Genge. He didn't pick two explosive players at the same time. You have one kind of steady player, one kind of explosive player in the starting 15, and then two on the bench. And then you swap them out, whether they were in the front row or the second row, it didn't matter. I think that worked for him. And Andy Farrell he is an incredibly smart bloke. Whatever your criticisms of, I don't have very many criticisms of him, because he is just a quality guy. He comes across so well in the media, very grounded, very humble, knows his stuff to a T. And ultimately, he won a series. You can't criticize him. And I know he said you want to win 3-0, but there's a lot of talk in the rugby world where you say you aim for perfection. And then the reality is what you get is very good. And actually, very good can win. So if you set your standards up here, but you hit them here and you win, is that a bad thing? I don't think it is. So ultimately, it's a really great tour for the Lions. And even the guys who didn't get a lot of game time, they've still got selected. And I think in Northern Hemisphere rugby at the minute, there is some quality players. Like there are plenty of men who didn't get picked for that tour that I think could have done, because they've done really well at club and really well at country. And that is a really fortunate place to be in for the Northern Hemisphere countries, for the British and Irish Isles. And very exciting, because it means that international rugby is only going to get more competitive.
Okay, guys, so that was it from our side, from her side of the Ruck, and we hope you guys enjoyed, and we are so excited to hear your thoughts as well, so please drop them down below in the comments. Also remember to like and subscribe, and go follow us on our socials. We're on TikTok and on Instagram. So yeah, so for now, I'm signing off from South Africa is Bernice.
Signing off from the UK is Tash.
And we will see you again next week. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.